Good morning, guys. Happy New Year's Eve. I'm going to do a scary story that was sent in. Well, it's like more creepy. It was sent in to me on my Instagram. So, this came from a girl named Anna, and she is talking about what happened to her whenever she was working at a gas station. So, she says that she was in college and she was working at a gas station to make money, and that she had only been working there for a couple of months. So the town that she was going to college wasn't like super big. Like it was kind of big. It was a college town, and she had a bunch of regulars that would come into the store, and they started to like know her by name because she wasn't from that town. But she'd worked there for long enough that they knew who she was. One night, a guy came in that she didn't really recognize, but that also wasn't super weird because the gas station was like off a freeway kind of. So there were also a lot of people that she didn't know that came in all the time. So she says that it was really weird because he went up to the counter to pay for the stuff that he was getting, and he like called her by her name, which was really creepy because people just don't normally do that. She kind of wondered how he knew her name, but then remembered that her name tag has her name on it, so she was like less creeped out, but it was still just a weird interaction. And he asked her if she would want to hang out with him sometime, and she was kind of like, no, I have a boyfriend, I can't hang out with you. So he popped up with one of those, what your man don't know can't hurt him kind of situations, and she was like, I'm just not interested also. Like, even if I didn't have a boyfriend, I don't want to date you. So he was like, oh, so you're like honest about how you feel about it. And then he was like, well, what don't you like about me? So she popped up with, well, besides the fact that you don't care that I have a boyfriend already, you're just not that attractive. So he was like, all right, cool, you have a good night, Anna. And she was just kind of like, yeah, whatever, don't care. Like, you're just weird. So he left. So as a side note, she actually did not have a boyfriend. That's just like her go-to for whenever people tried to talk to her that she wasn't interested in, which, I think most girls can relate to that. It's just a thing. But she was only a part-time employee, so she had the next 3 days off, so she didn't go to work. But on the next day that she did go to work, she comes in and her coworker's like, hey, somebody sent you flowers and they've been here for like the last 3 days. So since Anna doesn't actually have a boyfriend, that's just something she said to this guy. She has no idea who sent her these flowers, and it just says that it's to her. So she is working for the next 3 days, and that night she got the flowers. She was like, okay, I have no idea who sent these to me. She took them home, and then the next day, the guy from before comes in to see her, and he's like, hey, Anna. And she's like, oh, great, it's you. And he casually asks her like how her boyfriend is, and she's like, that's a really weird thing to ask, like, he's fine. And he said, oh, well, that's cool, like, I'm surprised that you all don't live together. So she's like kind of freaking out at this point, and she just kind of looks at him and doesn't say anything. He didn't even buy anything, he just turned around and left after he told her that. And so she called her friend and was like freaking out. So her friend is asking her, like, is there any chance that those flowers that you got from him are, well, like, the flowers you got are from him? And she was like, I don't think so. Like, why would he do that? That'd be really weird. And she's like, maybe you should try and find out. So after her shift, she goes home and she checks the card on the flowers again, and it just says to Anna, that's it. It doesn't have, like, it wasn't from a flower shop or anything. There was, like, no markings on it. So the next 3 shifts that she has go by, and nothing happens. He doesn't come in, she doesn't get any flowers. She threw the flowers away that he had sent her, that she thought he sent her. So she thinks that like maybe he was just passing through for a few days and like everything's gonna go back to normal. So that night she gets off work and she goes home and she finds more flowers right outside her front door. The card on the flower said, to Anna, I know that you've been looking for me, still haven't seen that boyfriend of yours. So she freaks out, she calls the police, she tells them the situation, and they're kind of like, could this be like an ex, or like, were you like flirting with somebody and they got the wrong idea? And she's like, why are you blaming me for this? Like, this is serious. Like, somebody knows where I live and I have no interest in them. I don't want their attention. So the police come and they take the flowers as evidence. The next day she had to go to work, and somebody had dropped off some handcuffs for her with a note that said, "I see you know how to play." At this point, she's like traumatized. She calls the police again, and they show up, and they're like, "Well, who dropped him off?" The guy that took the handcuffs and like gave them to her, like her coworker, he said that it was a girl that dropped him off. So she's sitting there like, I have no idea what's going on. And the police are like, "I thought you said it was a guy." So at this point, she's like completely shocked because she doesn't know what's going on. Like, she doesn't know what girl would be dropping off this stuff for her. So she's like back at square one. She doesn't know what's happening. So she called and told her friend what happened, and her friend told her to come and stay with her at her house. So they both went to her friend's house that night when they heard somebody knocking at the door. So her friend went and answered the door, and there was a girl standing there, and all she said was, "He knows that you're here," and then she left. So they called the police again, and whenever the police showed up, they started banging on the door. The girl goes to answer the door, and the guy that was at the gas station is standing there wearing a police uniform. So he pushes his way in, and he starts chasing them around the house. So they're running around, and Anna is like, "The real police are going to be here any minute." He's like, "I am the real police." So she starts panicking. She runs into one of the bedrooms and locks herself in. Meanwhile, she can hear her friend screaming because he's still chasing her. She calls the police again and tells them that she needs somebody to come and like help them, and they tell her that somebody already reported that they already went and talked to her, which was the guy. So he was an actual police officer. So she was trying to explain to them on the phone that the guy that is stalking her is actually the police officer that responded, but she wasn't making any sense. So she ran out of the house to one of her neighbors' houses and starts banging on their door, and people can hear her friend screaming in the house at this point. So other people are starting to call the police too and report that there's like something going on. So other police start responding to the scene, and they can hear screaming too. So they go to her friend's house, and they end up seeing that he is like tied up her friend in her house, and they're trying to ask him what he's doing, and he tries to say that he was responding to someone breaking in and they were the ones that tied her up. Both the girls were saying that he had done it, so they were trying to figure out who was like telling the truth. But why would they be lying? Like, they couldn't see a reason for either one of them to be lying other than maybe he did actually do it, so they did end up arresting him. So after they arrested him, they went and searched his house, and they actually found stuff from other girls that had similar instances happen to them that were like at his house. Like, he had someone's necklace, someone's bracelet, and other things. So none of the girls had died. He had just like attacked them in their house. So he had been getting away with it for a while because none of the girls were actually reporting that he was like stalking them before it got to the point where he escalated to breaking into their houses. So then at that point, they didn't really have anything to go off of, and he was a police officer in those other areas as well. For context, Anna said that this took place in the 70s. If you have stories you want me to tell on my TikTok, send them to me on my Instagram. That's linked in my bio.